"Jack, how many people were affected by the storm down here?" The question sounded simple, almost routine, but the answer lingered in the air longer than expected. It wasn't just about numbers, it was about how little anyone really knew. That moment set the tone for everything that followed. What began as a conversation about a storm slowly shifted into something far more unusual. Deep within a stretch of remote woodland, a group of explorers stumbled upon something that didn't quite fit the landscape. At first glance, it seemed like nothing more than uneven ground, but curiosity has a way of pulling people closer, even when something feels slightly off. The discovery beneath the soil. As the group moved deeper into the forest, guided by rough maps and instinct, one of them noticed a patch of earth that looked disturbed. Brushing away layers of dirt and roots, they uncovered a rusted metal hatch partially hidden beneath the surface. It didn't look like the part of any ordinary structure. There were no clear markings, no obvious purpose, just a silent presence buried under years of natural growth. The forest around them grew unusually still, as if reacting to the discovery. No one said much, but everyone felt it. The subtle shift in atmosphere that comes when something long hidden is suddenly brought back into view. A silence that felt different. The deeper they stood in that moment, the more noticeable the silence became. It wasn't peaceful or calming. It felt heavy, almost intentional. The usual sounds of the forest had faded, replaced by a quiet that seemed to press in from all sides. Even simple movements, like stepping on leaves or adjusting a flashlight, sounded louder than they should have. One of the men paused, glancing around as if expecting to see something just beyond sight. There was nothing visible, yet the feeling remained. It was the kind of silence that makes you aware of your surroundings in a way that's hard to explain, but impossible to ignore. Signs that didn't belong. As they examined the area more closely, they began to notice markings on nearby trees. They weren't typical trail signs or natural patterns. These were deliberate carved shapes, spirals etched into the bark, each one facing toward the same point, the hatch. The carvings looked old, weathered by time, yet still clear enough to suggest intention. Some were uneven, as if made in a hurry, while others were deeper, carved with more force. The repetition of the same symbol raised questions no one could answer. It didn't feel like decoration or coincidence. It felt like a message, though its meaning remained unclear. The pull of curiosity. Despite the growing unease, none of them chose to leave. Curiosity had already taken hold, guiding their decisions more than logic. The hatch, the carvings, and the unusual stillness all seemed connected somehow. One of them reached down, clearing more dirt away from the metal surface. The latch became visible, simple, worn, and untouched for what seemed like years. For a moment they hesitated, each waiting for someone else to act. It wasn't fear exactly, but a shared understanding that opening it might change things. Still, the need to know outweighed the hesitation, and eventually they decided to see what lay beneath. Opening what was hidden. When the latch finally gave way, it opened with a long, echoing sound. Beneath it was a narrow shaft leading downward, just wide enough for a person to climb through. The air that rose from below felt stale, carrying the scent of earth and time. Carefully, one of the men descended while the others watched from above. The space below was small, enclosed, and clearly not part of any natural formation. Wooden supports lined the walls, and the structure appeared to have been built by hand. It wasn't large, but it was purposeful, designed for a reason that wasn't immediately obvious. A space filled with questions. Inside the chamber, the details became more intriguing. Objects were arranged in a way that suggested use, though not in any familiar sense. There were old tools, fragments of materials, and markings similar to the ones found outside. On one wall, faint drawings had been made, repeating shapes and patterns that echoed the spirals on the trees. Nothing appeared random, everything seemed connected, yet the purpose remained unclear. It didn't feel like a place meant for storage or shelter. Instead, it gave the impression of something more intentional, though difficult to define without context. Leaving with more than answers. After spending only a short time inside, the group decided to leave. There was no clear reason to stay longer, and the atmosphere continued to feel unsettled. Once back on the surface, they closed the hatch and stepped away, each of them processing the experience in their own way. The forest remained quiet, but it no longer felt the same as before. What they had found wasn't something easily explained or dismissed. It stayed with them, not as fear, but as a lingering question. Some discoveries don't provide answers. Instead, they open doors to thoughts that take much longer to understand. The story spreads quietly. In the days that followed, word of the discovery began to circulate. People shared theories, trying to piece together what the structure might have been used for. Some believed it was an old, forgotten shelter, while others thought it might have served a more specific purpose tied to the land's history. Without clear evidence, everything remained speculation. The markings, the design, and the location all added layers to the mystery. Yet no one returned to investigate further. Sometimes not knowing feels easier than risking another encounter with something that doesn't fully make sense. A mystery that remains. Even now, the story continues to exist quietly, passed along in conversations and shared experiences. The forest itself has returned to normal, at least on the surface. The sounds have come back and the stillness has faded. But for those who were there, the memory remains vivid. It wasn't just about finding something hidden. It was about the feeling that came with it, the sense that not everything is meant to be fully understood. Some places hold stories that don't reveal themselves easily, and sometimes the most lasting impact comes not from what you find, but from what you leave behind unanswered.